Hey guys, welcome back to the Physio Bros. Today we're talking about all things sprinting. Now, if you're someone at the moment who's running multiple kilometers a week, but you're yet to see any improvements in your breathing control, your pace, or your muscle strength, then it might be time to mix it up.
Now today we're going to be breaking down the key benefits of sprinting and why you should be incorporating it into your usual running program. So let's get into it. Now the first benefit is a stronger and easier stride. Now if we think about having a strong stride, basically what I'm talking about here is how much force you're putting into the ground with every single step. We've got to think about some of the best sprinters in the world. If you think about Usain Bolt, what differentiates him from a lot of other runners is how much force he's pushing into the ground with every single stride. Now, when you're practicing sprinting, you should be really focusing on pushing and driving into the ground and then springing off and releasing really quickly. What makes people fast at running isn't their ability to swing their legs through really quickly, it's actually their ability to push as much force through the ground as they can. So as you practice sprinting, how this is actually going to benefit you is you're going to naturally get better at having a stronger stride, having more force going into the ground. So then this translates into when you're doing your Sunday long easy run, that feeling is actually going to be a lot more effortless because you're not putting anywhere near as much force into the ground just in your day-to-day run. So if we think about having an easier stride, as you've practiced these harder efforts, naturally your connective tissues, your muscles, your tendons, and your structures around your joints are going to become able to work in a more effortless manner because they've gotten stronger and they've gotten more durable. This is mainly because you've exposed them to a much higher level of load than they're used to, so naturally they're going to get those benefits. So this will then improve your elastic recoil of your tendons, which is also an essential component to speed, which will then make you have a more effortless stride.
Now, JB briefly touched on this in the first point, but we talked about the benefits of having stronger muscles, bones, and connective tissue. So to address the muscle component, we know that over the age of 30, we naturally lose muscle mass, and this typically impacts our fast twitch muscle fibers. Now that would be something that would naturally reduce our stride length and stride strength as we age. So to try and reduce the impact of that, we know that doing strength training, but also speed work will do wonders for maintaining our muscle strength and therefore improving our running ability. The second benefit is looking at the impact it has on our connective tissue, bones, and tendons. Now this is something that we know, similar to muscles, responds really well to strength and training and speed work. Performing activities that have high impact and forces coming up through our legs is going to really help build bone strength and density, as well as getting your tendons adjusted to increasing the amount of tensile load going through them. So by performing speed work and incorporating it into your routine, you're going to not only be strengthening your muscles, but also all the connective tissue that supports them.
Now for our next benefits, we have to think about the different types of energy production systems that our body has. So on one hand, you've got the aerobic system, and this is basically how our body produces energy for activities when there's a presence of oxygen. And usually this is with lower intensity activities. On the other hand, you've got the anaerobic system, and this is basically where our body needs to produce energy in an environment where there's not oxygen present. This is usually in higher intensity activities such as sprinting, jumping, or heavy weightlifting. And so training intervals is going to improve our anaerobic system. When you're thinking about this particular system, bear with me, but we're going to break it down step by step. So in this system, we've got to look at how it actually produces energy. So in this, it starts with glucose and it basically breaks it up into a few different things, but one of those things is lactate. Now it's a common misconception that lactate is actually the causation of your muscle soreness. Now lactate is actually something really helpful that our body can use in reconverting it back into energy. As we work on sprinting and interval workouts, we're actually improving the lactate's ability to clear some of those other acids that will actually contribute to your muscle soreness. So the way this translates practically is when you're out on your next tempo or threshold or PB attempt run. After doing all this training, which is going to improve your body's ability to clear the lactate and therefore the other acids that cause your soreness, hopefully you're going to be less fatigued on that run and you're going to be able to smash your time out of the park.
Now, as JB mentioned, there's going to be some improvements in your anaerobic capacity, but we're also going to see some significant improvements in your aerobic capacity or your running economy. Now, there are many variables that impact your running economy, but it basically refers to your efficiency to utilize oxygen when you're running at certain speeds. Now, as we expect your aerobic capacity to improve, we're also looking at the impact it has on your VO2 max. Now, your VO2 max is the maximum amount of oxygen that you can utilize when performing physical exercise. So as we do sprints for a longer period of time, we expect your VO2 max to improve, which means that you're going to be far more efficient at utilizing oxygen as you go perform your run. So to give you an example to work off, if we're looking at your 5K running pace and you're currently running 5-minute 30Ks for that run, As your aerobic threshold improves and your running economy improves and your VO2 max improves, you should then notice that you're able to drop your running pace down and be more efficient at utilizing your oxygen, which will improve your speed but at the same amount of perceived effort. Now, we wouldn't recommend sprinting as the main form of training to build your aerobic capacity. Now, we know training at a lower intensity where you can train in a larger volume may be a more realistic way of building your aerobic capacity. But the benefit of sprinting is you're going to train tapping into both your anaerobic and aerobic capacity in one big session.
Our last point is that doing sprinting and interval workouts is going to add variety to your training, and in turn, that's going to reduce your risk of injury. We've got to think about all those previous benefits we mentioned, in particular, the strengthening that it has to our muscles, tendons, connective tissues, and ligaments, and how this is going to reduce your chance of injury. If we think about the hamstrings in particular, sprinting is the only activity where the hamstrings will actually reach maximal contraction. Your hamstring is enduring a load of up to 8 to 10 times that of your body weight right before your foot touches the ground to when it immediately leaves the ground. So by performing sprints and enduring these maximal loads over time, you're going to dramatically reduce your risk of hamstring injury. If we think about hip flexors are another really essential muscle in sprinting, and they're going to make you faster. So the more we train our sprinting, the stronger our hip flexors will get, and this in turn will then translate into more benefits into your everyday running. Lastly, if you just think about variety of training, this is an essential component to any program that you might have exercise-wise. You might be just going out and doing 5K continuous runs every single session and not seeing any improvements because you're doing the same thing and you're not challenging your body. By doing speed, interval, and sprint workouts, what you're doing is you're changing the conditions that your body's working under, meaning it needs to adapt to a different set of conditions, and this in turn, your benefits will absolutely soar.
At the end of the day, guys, speed training is more than just speed. It's a conditioning tool that's going to help us get stronger and more powerful with our running. If you're a distance runner who isn't performing any speed training, then you are definitely going to be losing to someone who is.
Thanks heaps for tuning into today's episode. Make sure you smash that like button, subscribe. Our Instagram is up and running, so go look up at the Physio Bros and join the team there, and we'll see you next week.